Hello there, everyone. Today I thought I would make a very fast guide on Furina. She is the newest Archon, you can say, in this game. And yeah, she is the best unit in the game. I was thinking about that before. I had some information and reading through some leaks. And yeah, it turns out all the people doing posting in Furina mains, yeah, you're incorrect. And I learned how numbers work, I guess. So, anyways, basically going through the actual basic bits of the guide, starting off with just weapons. Really what you're going to want is Blunder. Tranquils, this is your best in slot. It is your signature. There's a ton of free-to-play options, though, and low spending options you can do. One of the best ones is Festering Desire for a low spender. You can even get away with Favonius Sword as long as you're getting uptime on your burst. And another one actually is Wolfang. I know a lot of people right now are saying it doesn't work because of how it snapshots, but if you do an EQ and then like auto attack, you should proc enough that should just hold, because she does snapshot when she goes off field. And it also looks good with her. So those are all the options. Wolfang is from Battle Pass. There's a lot of other great options, like she has tons. You don't need to get this, especially because this banner kind of sucks. I got because she's absolutely insane, and I really like her. So, going from there. Best in slot is Golden Troop. It is by 15 and 20%. So, it is by far the best. Almost all of her damage, actually, all of her damage is from her E. So, buffing this up by a stupidly high, like, I think it's 75% or something, or 70 is ridiculous and is really good. You want to do HP on her, especially if you don't have her C2, because this will be a gigantic damage increase as she heavily scales with HP with almost everything she does. Even at C2 is pretty worth it. ER substats are going to be almost as valued as crit, same thing with HP. If you can't get above about 40 to 60% ER with the second Hydro character, then you can have a few issues with getting her burst up. But if you're running someone like a Raiden as a battery, a good Bennett, or you have some Fabs, you could easily get away with 140. If you're going for off rotation, you can look at 180 to 200. But really, I don't think that would be necessary here. Yeah, obviously still want 1-2 split, heavy focus there. It's actually worth it not even running a higher damage piece. So someone like Kazuha with her is insane because that's just more free damage, pretty much. Her cons, anything to C3 is insane. All these are good though. This is insane because this also just gives you free HP healing while on, just doing a bunch of different stuff. It's free energy, fixes a lot of issues there. This right here is insane. She becomes one of the best on-field damage dealers, even though she's one of the best off-field damage dealers. C1 basically gives you 150 flat fanfare points. This turns out to be a 37% damage increase stock, and then extra 100 points. Pretty much just makes it so her stuff goes from 75 to 100. I'll explain that more in a second. Over here, this is really the stupid one. It's a 3.5 times multiplier to the amount of stacks you get and a gigantic HP increase. All these stacks will make sense in a second. I'm just kind of going in order of the screen. Then from here, this raises up 3 levels. This is about as big of an upgrade as this. So, yeah. Pretty much her normal attacks suck. The only important thing to note about them is that you can switch forms like this, and it'll switch your dude from this or this. Those dudes are your E. It summons in either the Goon Squad right here. The Goon Squad is very overpowered. You have a Seahorse right here that will hit really, really fast and does some stuff here. You have this dude who has a top hat who is really cool. He does some pretty decent mid-sized damage and a pretty good AoE, and this guy just chonks them. I've seen him hit upwards of 50,000 damage. So, yeah, his job is to really, really hurt them. And yeah, basically, because of that, they all have their own separate ICD, meaning her Hydro application is pretty good. It is less than Xingqiu and Yelan, but is more higher than Kokomi's. So in most case scenarios, it's actually pretty good, including the fact that they can even do different targeting sometimes. They supposedly have the same IQ as someone like Woba, but I would compare it much more to Yao Yao's little Yugui Boyo, because it is significantly better. It tracks really, really well. These guys also follow you like crazy. As you see here, they'll just straight out teleport. Oh, they despawn there, but if I just run, they will follow me. I have had them follow me like halfway through a goddamn continent. These guys will just follow you, which is insane. So they're super easy. Again, I just pressed E there. This ability has a 150% uptime, 20-second cooldown, 30-second uptime, which is great. This R form is a healer that heals about as good as Kokomi does. That's all it does, but its radius is about the same as Nahita's Q, so for an example of range, it's about that big. So yeah, it pretty much heals you if you're somewhere within any vicinity of the map at all, which is great. So yeah, she heals really, really well. Usually there's reasons not to do that, and we'll go through that in a second. Her burst is stupid. So every single time a character has any damage taken to them or gained, meaning healers also then will give you more stacks, you'll get a point towards fanfare per percent of HP. So pretty much, let's say you do a Hu Tao charge attack with her E, and it does 30% of your HP because you're full health. That's 30 stacks. So that turns out to just free damage for doing it. These guys also, by the way, will drain your HP by a good bit. As you see right over here, it should tell you the damage and all that there. That's why there's double the damage, the HP consumption here. Things to note, this does not work with Dea's artifact set, and it is not considered as damage taken. It is just damage, basically. So there's nothing super fancy about how it works. It pretty much works towards stacking with fanfare, and that's the biggest interaction you'll have with it, but that's a big interaction. We'll go into more of that in a second. At C0, this gives you 75% damage bonus. You will get it up over 50% of the time, so it's really more like a 50 damage bonus, which Yellon's is 33, so it's still higher than hers. It also applies to the whole team. So let's say you're running something like a Yaimiko team right over here. Let's see if I can find it. There you go. A team like this here. So my Yaimiko, my Nahida, and my Ren will all get a damage increase because none of them really snapshot. And yeah, it just turns out to pump out insane damage, basically. That's really just how that works and why that's super good, because it'll buff multiple characters by a higher amount than Yellon. Also, her E, especially with either her Sig or some cons, does a bit more damage than the Yellon's, I notice here. So the actual damage per wave is higher at C0, but the DPS is lower basically because Yellon attacks more frequently. Whenever you get cons, it changes it basically. So to note, yeah, her E is pretty much the damage of Yellon and has a heal that's as good as Kokomi with the range of Nahida. And her Q is pretty much the best. It's free damage for your entire team, no matter what you do. You're pretty much always going to be benefiting from this. There's never really a position when this is bad. Even characters that rarely scale off of many things is good. So for an example, Ganyu, because she's cryo, actually values this a ton. That's very good damage for her, and it's a different type of multiplier that's not like Yellon. So you don't lose any damage because these guys attack autonomously while giving you a whole bunch of stuff. New Valette actually really enjoys this, especially at C1, because you're running double Hydro, it's a whole bunch of different things. Pretty much, New Valette in Furina is really good, and New Valette's actually a character that can't use Yellon. So any character that can't use Yellon probably can use Furina. Usually it turns out to be better, which is really good. Xiao really likes this a lot. Fucking every real character does. This actually makes Kachin-Ching's much more reasonable. And the nice thing about it is, even though she kind of does everything, it's kind of how Hydro works is, usually running double Hydro on a lot of teams is still really good. So Furina, as we just said, is super strong, but she plays with other characters. So you can stack her with Yellon, fix up your Hydro application issues, and do an absolute ton of damage. As a very fast example, if we go over to the Rock Boy over here, our little test subject, you'll notice he kind of will just die. This will also be a decent example of showing how much Furina can really do. I'll try and get her bursted up here. I need a little bit more ER in this build because I'm just not super used to rotations yet. And I'm also overworlding when I'm trying to burst, I'm testing stuff, but it's real easy with this 160 to actually get burst off cooldown, especially with something like a Xingqiu with stack or a Yellon C1 or with stack, either or. There's a bunch of different options for how you can really get your particles. And again, if you have something like a Bennett spamming for Fab, that'd do a ton, and yeah. So he actually has a Hydro damage resist. That's probably fine, I'm not really gonna lie. I'm not awfully too worried about it. Get my burst up here. There we go, get the boys out here. And yep, they are hitting for a lot. Yep, that was 5,000 damage that the big boy, or 53,000 damage the big boy did there. And that was also like without a Yellon buff or really anything. Dea doesn't really help in this, so yeah. As you see there, it's kind of even out damaging my Hu Tao sometimes in damage, which is insane. My Yellon burst even dropped there, and it's still completely nuked him. So the damage he outputs is really good, and the nice thing about it is she also helps your healers. So they will make it so if you overheal, which happens all the time in Genshin, you will heal your entire party for more. That means you can permanently have your E on with the GOON squad, and you'll never really need to change to this. Whenever you change this, it's actually a gigantic DPS loss, and it's also a particle loss. Usually there's a lot of ways I find you can circumvent it, so it's not that big of a deal, but that's cool. I already tested it. It actually does work with Dea's passive, so if you want to try and be an epic gamer, you can totally try and do that and use a Deha Furina engine to keep doing up your stacks. Pretty much how it goes also in terms of how constellations affect it to go really fast. C1 gets you from 0% damage starting out to 33 damage starting out, and also will stack it up to, instead of 75%, 100%. Her C2 is a 3.5 times multiplier to her stacks, and because she stacks pretty much instantly, that floor pretty much becomes maximum 5 seconds or less, probably. Also, the max HP increase is gigantic because of how the Goon Squad works. Then this right here is another 25% damage bonus. Yes, that means this ability will get you a flat increase of multiplicative scaling of 125% damage. This is, again, the same type of damage scaling as Yelan does, and is coveted as probably the best type of way you can increase damage in the game next to what Kaza does, which is like 3 different things. So, yeah. There's a lot here that's insanely good. Her damage output actually power creeps most of the things in the game, and as I was saying with healers, let's say I do a little Kokomi thing right over here. Where's Kokomi? There she is. And let's say I do this, do my healer here, do Kokomi, and now we look at the overheal. Yep, there's my team getting healed, and when you have both of them, it's a lot of health. And because this overall full team heal pretty much counteracts her damage taken, yeah, pretty much means your healer then is doing more damage. Kokomi already can do a lot of things like the relay tail swapping, so it's big buff to her. Actually, Jean, believe it or not, got one of the biggest buffs from this too, because of her AoE wide healing actually is really potent because of it, which is awesome. Free buffs to Jean is always nice, especially because he's a little underappreciated while being able to swirl, so Jean Furina is a really good combo. This, of course, buffs Bennett, so now Bennett is also better. This buffs Dea because it allows a Dea engine to run. This is a massive buff to Hu Tao because this now means that you have another form of damage application while still also draining your health, allowing you to potentially do a team like this right here where you slap in Bennett. This is something that was like, oh, I wish we could do this at the start of the game. This pretty much is the end game build for Hu Tao, as all these characters are massively buffing her damage while not interfering with her kit. That's kind of the dream, and now that's actually in game. She's actually probably the strongest single target character right now. And yeah, there's no one that really gets hurt by Dea, or sorry, by Furina. Almost everything here becomes a gigantic damage bonus. A lot of characters who wanted really easy Hydro application off E and a damage bonus are happy. Even if you don't even use it for a damage bonus, the damage on these guys alone is absolutely insane. And yeah, if you're looking for a character, this is probably one of the best ones to get here. I assume this will probably be MiHoYo's highest grossing banner, like by a lot, as even C4 is pretty much worth it. And C6 is great, and her C5 is great. Every constellation here is a massive boon. So yeah, I would say Blaze Polar, you will not regret it no matter what. Even if you use her as a carry, she is good. And yeah, thank you for watching.